committee meeting for today, whatever date that is. What date is that? 21st.
Of 2024 in November.
Oh my goodness, it just like keeps moving on, keep rolling on. We'll have the call to order. And then roll call, please.
All right. So, Alan Forrest,
Here.
Alejandra.
Here.
Anne Marie. Anne Marie, you're muted, but I see you're on. Asia. Here. Thank you, Claire.
Here.
Craig. Eric.
Here.
Kirsten. Here. Matt.
Here.
Rob. I don't think Rob is on. And somebody is,
That's Henry's kind.
all right, I see you, Anne Marie.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Scott Oldendorf
Here.
and Steve Foley.
Here.
Did I miss anybody?
Got Cole.
Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you, Scott. So we are missing Rob, and that is it.
Well, thank you, so many of you for being here this morning. We'll go ahead and do the virtual meeting reminders. Please mute your microphones to help ensure there's no feedback or background noises that come through. If a committee member would like to speak and ask a question, raise your hand, use that feature on your computer, and remember to lower your hand once your question is done. And when you're ready to speak, please don't forget to unmute your microphone, especially important during votes. And don't forget to mute your microphone when you're done. As a reminder, audience members are only permitted to speak during the call to the audience unless called upon by the committee. And this meeting is being recorded to satisfy the open meeting law requirements. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll move on to the safety share. Can you have a safety share for us this morning?
Yeah, I'll,
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the call to audience. Excuse me. Call to the audience. Sorry about that, Jackson.
that's okay, that's okay.
So I have to check them all.
Yeah.
All right. No call to the audience? No, nobody responding? Excellent. Okay. We'll
Okay, I just wanted to share we've been very happy with our safety performance. We're still striving for our goal of 0 recordable accidents. And we've made great headway in the past couple of years. The numbers have improved, but this year we've been running with two recordables for the longest time. I think all the way through last month or into last month for the calendar year, 10 months into the calendar year. But then the wheels came off of the bus. But we had, it's interesting, the additional incidents that we had. And one was an employee was parked at a stoplight, driving a county vehicle, stopped at the stoplight, and somebody rear-ended him. And for precautions, he was fine. It wasn't serious, but for precautionary, that type of thing, we take them in or have them go to the clinic. And they automatically wrote him a prescription for a muscle relaxant in case he gets sore overnight or the next day. He didn't fill the prescription because he didn't feel he needed to, but because they wrote one, it's a recordable. But anyway, not through a real safety incident. It was kind of unavoidable type one, which, they do occur, and that was one. Another one that we had is, we had an employee that bumped their knee, getting into a golf cart. And it was one of those, just doing your normal thing and bumped the knee, but it was kind of like when you hit your funny bone for the individual. And it really was very painful. And they had a vasal reaction and passed out. I mean, they felt like, man, I'm getting nauseous. I'm gonna sit down. And sure enough, they passed out. And because they passed out, they were fine. They went back to, to work and everything was good. But because they actually lost consciousness briefly, they found that report. So interesting, we're learning some of these things, but our numbers have increased for some, unusual reasons. And I just thought I'd share that with you. And then one other, incident that just occurred, and it wasn't with us, but our contractor over here next door, Jacobs, who runs our Agua Nueva facility, they are doing a project over there on their DAP, and they're rebuilding some structural steel. And so they're using a crane to fly in some steel beams. And when you're taking beams into a vault or a tank or a vessel, it's usually a smaller opening. So you usually almost always have to fly them in vertically. And that's a little more, technical pick with the rigging and stuff, because all the weight, it's easy to slide out of the rigging. And sure enough, like on the third beam they put in there, it slid out from the rigging. And the person doing the rigging, we understand, was newer, less experienced. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but they were less experienced. And then the person receiving the loads at the bottom was also less experienced, and he was standing in the drop zone where you need to stand back until it's down there, then you go do what you gotta do. At any rate, at that third one, it came unconnected or slid off the sling, and it dropped on his foot, and he lost a toe out of the deal. So at any rate, and that one was recordable, but not against us, that's a different company, but nonetheless, just
So
we
steel
can-
toe shoes didn't help?
pardon me?
Steel toe shoes didn't help?
Not for that kind of weight, no. If we step on a steel toe, you won't even flinch, but you drop a steel beam on a steel toe, it's not gonna save you. Yeah, that's too much weight. Go ahead, I thought I'd share that. You gonna top that, Eric? No, okay.
No, I have trouble topping you. But, tomorrow is the, Tucson's, big bicycle rally, and you're gonna find people everywhere. So, your head has to be on a swivel. There are a number of road closures
Saturday. I didn't.
Saturday. So just be aware that Saturday you're gonna have it. They're here now already riding around. So just keep your eyes open.
Yep, great timing for that share.
Great. Any other shares? Not great about the foot. Wait, oh, that's ouch. Any other share, any other safety shares people want to give to the group? No? Okay. All right, we'll go to the minutes. Item number, G. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
I move for approval.
Great, and do we have a second?
I second. Scott rules on the board.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please vote to approve. All those in favor say aye, please, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. And we'll move down to item H, which starts with the director's update.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'll jump into I put legal action on here. I just think it's important to remind everybody on the committee that we always are, of course, we want to be good financial stewards of the revenues we get to run a very lean and efficient utility. But also, whenever something we think that was not our fault or somebody else's fault that harms our ratepayers or causes them to pay more than they should, we will usually pursue resolving that matter. And thus, we have legal claims. And, just to update, I'm not gonna get into specifics on the legal claim, but I'll just tell you the main ones that we have. We are still pursuing a claim against Ashton, who put in our biogas system. Yes, we run biogas and we get good revenue from biogas, but we had contractual guarantees in that project, and not all of them guarantees have been satisfied, and so we're pursuing making sure that we can recoup or have them make us whole or make us right. And, you know, one of them is how much gas we can get through the new system, and so we haven't been getting that contracted guarantee amount, so we will continue that lawsuit and keep you updated on how that goes. We also had two other developer or contractor related projects that one was with the Vale School District. Their contractor had put in a new sewer line for one of their schools, Micah Mountain. The area where they put the pipeline in had subsided and settled and caused us to expend money or are in the process of expending money to fix the pipeline. And we want to recoup that money from Vale and or their contractors. So we'll let you know how that one fares. And then a third larger one is over in Oro Valley. Pulte had a subdivision project and also built some infrastructure for us to take ownership of. And they've had a lot of settlement issues over there. Again, most believe it's soils related, poor soils, materials. And we are pursuing cost recovery for another pipeline we've had to, that one is done. And, you know, we spent over $1 million fixing that pipeline. So we want to recoup that money. So hopefully our lawsuits will, you know, and surprisingly, people don't just want to pay you. You sometimes have to resort to lawsuits. And in those cases, those are three bigger ones. Then we have other smaller claims, you know, that happen here and there. And typically if somebody impacts, it's more often than not, it's a sewer line damage. And we will pursue that. In fact, last night I got a call that a contractor was boring and they bored through our an 8-inch sewer line. And unfortunately it didn't make a big mess because it was all in some trench. They were also digging trenches and it filled up their trenches, but we had to call in one of our jocks for an overnight emergency. Don't know what that bill will be. I don't think we'll have any problem getting collecting from the folks that did it. They had the smoking gun in their hand, but you just never know. We had one utility drill through our line. There's their line in ours, and they didn't want to pay. I mean, it was like so obvious, and it was blue staked and everything. And so we, I think they're finally coming around, but we had to go through some legal, hoops to get that to happen. And sometimes I'm surprised because that adds cost to them as well, but
Right.
It is what it is.
You may have just answered my question, but and the reason I ask is because I've been with utilities a long time, and that was probably the biggest headache for those direction of boring going through. I just curious if it's very
Yeah.
common with you guys too.
Every once in a while, we'll actually find like a cable line or something through one of our pipelines, and it didn't create an issue because the levels were low enough, or, but more often than not, and you don't always find them right away. It could be years till you actually doing a CCTV or experience an actual problem, so.
Yeah.
But, it is an unfortunate part of our business, but we have to keep our ratepayers whole and pursue those. Every once in a while, we find when we were pursuing one and we found out that there was a blue state problem, and so we backed off. We didn't go after it, so.
Jackson,
Yes.
I'm curious about the biogas. I didn't realize that was underperforming. How much is it underperforming?
I think the contract was 650 standard cubic feet per minute, and I think we've hit, 575, maybe 550?
675 was the.
Oh, 675?
We wobble around 550.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And the issue is, what's the issue? Why is it not performing?
I don't know if our attorneys want to tell.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, we probably shouldn't get into the details, but, we have a couple of different scenarios, but bottom line is it's not meeting that value.
Yeah.
So they should be fixing it, and in the meantime, we're fighting and going
Because
through
that's-
that.
Revenue then.
And that's one of the claims is lost revenue, because we could have made more money than we've been making.
Oh, yeah.
So iterate,
Okay.
that's all. Oh, let's see, then, staffing update. Boy, this could be a whole session attempt. I always like to talk about staffing. We still run a little over 8% vacancy, which is, 35, 36 so positions out of our approximate 400 budgeted positions. We are, because the county did its compensation study and ultimately raised our competitiveness in the marketplace, we do see in general more applications for job, which is a good thing. But we still have trouble filling some jobs, and they're usually some of your higher tech blue collar jobs like instrumentation, process control. We're having a problem there. We actually, they made some additional improvements to our electrical staff, and we have a full house on our electricians right now, which has been a long time in coming. So that's a good thing. But I think we're gonna have to do something on the process control, SCADA, instrumentation side, in that area. And then, it's still a shame. I won't call out Beth in this meeting, but Tucson Water poaches a lot of people from us. We had somebody, leave for more money and went there, and then they decided, hey, maybe they did want to come back, but when they see again where our pay is compared to some of the market, and the intent from the county was to be at the 50% competitive mark. And so some, 50% of the market is gonna be pay more than us and 50% less. We just have a harder time finding the 50% less. And, we do the best we can, and I think we have really good people and we get a lot of incredible work done. But it is a continual challenge to keep your staffing, and, people retire, people promote, people find other opportunities, and just keeping the pipeline flowing is a challenge, and we talk about it a lot, and I just thought I'd throw that in there, but, we're still, you don't have to worry, there isn't sewage running down the street, other than where that contractor broke our line last night. Okay, go ahead.
On staffing. What percentage of the staff is, say, 10 years employed or 20 years employed? Our longevity rate, how does that?
Yeah.
You talk about the shortfall, but I'm curious about the long fall, so.
Yeah. I haven't run some of the statistics on our employees, that I have in the past. Many years ago, I've been here over 20 years now, but many years ago, one time we looked at, the average age of our workforce was 50 years old. The average time in the county average time of employment was like over 15 years. And, there was some interesting longer term mature workforce. We're seeing somewhat of a shift in some more younger employees. I go around and there's a lot of people, I don't even know their names anymore. But I guess that's a good thing too. But, with the loss of institutional knowledge and the silver tsunami and stuff with retirements, there's certain challenges. But all in all, we have a very good team, and we're able to do what we need to do to run a quality service for the community and taking care of the utility. But it doesn't go without challenges and a lot of uphill battles. And so we'll continue fighting the good fight and hopefully stay in that alignment. But competition is tough, and it's still always, many places struggle finding people, and sometimes that's the case, especially now more isolated than it used to be, but still have those challenges. The last thing, it's not on the agenda, so I'm not gonna really speak to it, but, because, we're gonna start focusing these meetings more on our potential or our likely planned rate increases or fee increases. And because it's been so long since we've done that, we lost that institutional knowledge of how to do that. And so, we're going back, Jeanette was looking back through minutes of some of these meetings back in June of 2017 was the last increase. And so, it's about a 6-month process to go through the public notification and the various meetings and approvals and advertisements. So, if we were expecting a July 1st potential implementation of a rate increase, we got to put it in gear and go. I don't personally think, and I'll let, I see Ellen's on team, she's welcome to comment, but in fact, the last increase wasn't on a July 1st, it was on a June 1st. So I don't know if there's anything sacred about when it goes, and I don't know that it creates any real additional work, but I don't want to say that with confidence because I'm not 100% sure all those ramifications. And I think maybe we consider striving for July 1st and putting all those targets and milestones in front of us and see if that works, but, you know, there's a lot of work between now and then.
I recall there were public hearings and meetings and in various places. Is that the case?
Yeah, that we have at least one, you have to have a public meeting, but I think
Yeah.
sometimes in the past, we've done 2 public meetings.
Yeah.
So,
I
you know,
think so too.
so again, it's part of what does this committee want to do? And then ultimately, the intent is that you would give your endorsement to the board and, you know, actions happen. But Ellen has institutional knowledge, so I will ask her to step in here.
Jackson, just a quick question.
Oh, go ahead, Scott, go ahead.
On staffing, is there a magic percentage number that you always want to kind of have, if you fall, over that magic percentage, number, then we're getting a little concerned, but then under it's not that much of a concern?
I've always said, you know, just because of the time it takes to hire in the county, there's certain bureaucracy involved in the process. And so even if somebody retired today, it could take you 90 days to fill it. So there's 3 months of a vacancy that you can't really do much about. And I would love to see our vacancy rates remain below 5%. Anything above that is challenging, and at 8+% is very challenging, and we've been as high as 10+%. But we're a little better off, but it's still challenging. So there you go. I'm sorry, Ellen, go ahead on the rate effort that we got to go through.
Yeah, I wouldn't rely on my institutional knowledge, Jackson. My knowledge of how the rates worked in wastewater was peripherally at best, you know, as we discussed with Carmine earlier this week, taking a look at that historical analysis to see how long it takes. You are correct that there is nothing magical about July 1st. It's just the beginning of the fiscal year. It makes it easier to calculate projected revenues for the entire year. But we have had cases in the past where we have put rates in place off cycle. So I think that once Jeanette finishes her analysis and determines that it's going to take, 6 months from, or 4 months from the time the board approves the rate increases before they can be, made effective. We just need to have that information so that we can do all of the math. So the sooner that we have that, the better off for all of us.
Yep.
I
Go ahead.
I seem to recall that, the board participates in those public hearings. That we show up to them. Is that the case?
I don't remember the board. You're talking about the Board of
Yeah.
Supervisors?
No, our board.
Oh, yeah, no, this committee participates. in those
Participates, so
public hearings.
we have to, it's just my recollection from
Yeah, in fact, they were like.
my institutional memory.
Answer it?
Yeah, from my experience in the past, the RAC committee actually conducts
Right.
public meetings.
Right,
So they can pick how many public meetings, where they want to do their public meetings that they want to do, and then we do the, we do the public notice for them and get them set up for you. But once the RAC has held their public meetings, then we can start the next process to rewrite the ordinances and there's a 60-day requirement that we post any potential rate increases on the county website. So our time frame would start really after the public meetings are held, but the RAC.
that was my recollection, and, I mentioned that because we, as a committee, need to consider that when we choose how many and, make sure that we have schedules that
Yeah,
allow us.
that's what we're gonna have to work out now.
Mhm.
And Anne Marie has her hand up, and there's another institutional knowledge, so she'll enlighten.
Exactly, and a lot of it's been said already, but yeah, we actually host the public meetings. They're actually our public meetings, and we've held them at different locations. We've had, throughout the years I've been on, we've tried to have them at locations where they're very accessible to the public, and we've usually held them at night, so the public can make it. I think last time we held one at night and one during the day, but always one at night, just so the public's available to come. So that's just I've been to a lot of the public hearings, so when we get there, we can talk more about it. But I think the key is just that on any rate increase, the public has an option to come and talk to our committee before we make our formal recommendations.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, I just was, might not even be relevant, but I thought, since we're talking about it, maybe I could better remember kind of what we did, or what we do in Tucson Water, but we would typically do our rate analysis and everything along kind of tracking the budget. So everything got approved July 1, together, but we wouldn't usually implement. We didn't like to implement in the summer when usage was high already and then added cost, so we usually put that on. So the process was still to July 1, but the implementation
Was at a later date, the actual go live with the guy.
That's interesting. All right, yeah, so you basically didn't want to ask for more money when everybody is
Yeah.
already in red check. Okay.
Question. Claire?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay. Since last March, when we went through the budget, at that time, we indicated we wanted to have a 3% increase. So we've already started that step, I believe, with the fact that we have indicated in the 26, we're looking, at a potential rate increase. Maybe I've got a year, maybe I'm a year too early, but I believe that we're looking at a 3% over a period of a couple of years. So we've already, from our side of the fence, we've already started talking about it.
Yes, that's true. But I think we need to review all of that and make sure that,
Yep.
you know,
And Ellen has her hand up again.
oh, thank you, Ellen.
You are correct that as part of last year's rate plan, we projected that we would need to have rate increases this year and for a couple of years into the future. So we've already set the table, if you will. But as part of the rate book analysis that we are starting in finance, we take a look at the actual final financial reports fiscal year 24 that were, completed as of June. We just got the audit for wastewater done. And so we need to pull all of those in there, as well as take a look at what wastewater Jackson and his team is planning for fiscal year 26 to see if that makes any difference in the math, basically, to see if 3% that we projected last year is still on track for what we need, or is it perhaps 2.5%, or is it 3.5%? So we have started that analysis. Typically that's done and ready for a first draft in January. But once we find out from Jackson and Jeanette the timing of how, when everything needs to line up, we will need to, you guys will need to determine if that needs to happen sooner or if it can happen on the cadence that was last year. And we'll then be able to tell you whether the 3% is where we still land. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and Jeanette just brought up the memo that we wrote to the Board of Supervisors, I believe, in April. And it says that we will, we project, we implement a user fee rate increase and discussed CIP projections through fiscal year 27-28. And that we voted to recommend that the financial plan be based on the scenario with a gradual 1.75 sewer volume rate increase beginning at 25-26. And then there's some more verbiage, but if you want to look back on that letter, you can see where we are so far.
Well, I just, and I just brought it up, and again, not to get into the conversation, and we shouldn't, but just to know that that's gonna be a primary focus, getting all those, we'll lay out the milestones.
Yeah.
Critical target items, and the committee's gonna
Yeah,
have to see
it
if
sounds
that's
like
there.
this should be an agenda item for December.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Unless there's any other comments, we'll move on. All right, and we'll move on to the long-range plan. We have Mead Meyer here, for the Pima Association of Governments. The 208 Area Water Quality Management Plan, very close and dear to my heart. So, hi Mead.
I have a PowerPoint. So I think Jeanette, would it be okay if I just said next slide?
Sure.
There you go.
Okay, here we go.
Great. So I'll go over some background about the plan, a quick look inside about the contents, review the benefits that we've seen from having 208 planning, how it works when it is implemented, and our next step. So next slide. Many of you know, but just in case there are some that are less familiar, PAG is the designated planning agency under Section 208 of the Clean Water Act. We were designated because we have that regional role in planning. Our board is the regional council with all the leads of governments in Pima County. My role is the integrated planning manager over both GIS and water and integrating with our other departments. So part of our designation requires us to create this area-wide water quality management plan, and we call it the 208 plan after that Section 208 reference. It's just a little more fun to say than AQUAMP. Pima County is one of the 3 designated management agencies in the PAG region. They're designated under our 208 plan. And as you can see from the map, Pima County's designation covers most of the county except for the Native Nations and Marana and Sahuarita. And there is a joint planning area with Sahuarita as well, between the county and Sahuarita. And it's unique. The county is unique across the state in that it is designated across the entire county. So next slide. What's inside the plan? The upfront chapter is the adopted policies and procedures for how to go through the process for how PAG reviews discharge permits to ensure that they have consistency with our 208 plan. And then there is a series of appendices that includes a facility inventory of the wastewater facilities, both private, public, whether they're open or closed, their updated permit info, updated capacity info, and contacts for all those facilities across the region. Then, since you were asking about long-range planning, one aspect of that is that we have 20-year projections for wastewater flows. And that is using PAG's land use projections that helps to reconcile some differences in projections that different jurisdictions anticipate across the region. Then there's a strategic action plan. That was a newer thing that was added in 2020 to more formally recognize where there were stated goals and issues and strategies to meet those goals. There's a whole section on those water quality issues that is updated. It's a more technical part of the plan. And then there's a section on planning background and history. So how policies were updated and developed over time, as well as changes in regulation. So next slide. We are big proponents of the value of this plan. And we've always appreciated the county's support on that. One intent the federal government had was, when creating this section, was to ensure that local entities had a voice in the process. And in the past, the ADQ has always appreciated that we try to make sure there's collaboration and awareness of any local policies that conflict and get a permit harmonious before it reaches their approval process. So the next purpose, of course, is clean water. Oh, still the same slide. And reliable water. So this was based on across the country before the 70s. Of course, there were many polluted rivers. In our region, you could see that in the form of a smell or trash even along the river. And so the idea was we want to preserve our historic flowing areas as well. In our region, there is that emphasis that we find value in. And the other history in our region was a legacy of old and failing septic systems, as well as substandard small and private facilities. So this plan ensures prioritization of regional public facilities since they are more clean and reliable over the long term. The other purpose is, well, I just mentioned the regional one, but the other purpose is integrated. This means integrated planning. We look at whether collaboration is happening with flood control, groundwater issues, since all those water issues eventually connect in the real world. And one benefit has been resulting in beneficial use of effluent and wastewater use, because the county is able to encourage regional connections. This has created a larger supply that can be reclaimed and result in a flowing river even. Okay, next slide. What does it look like to implement the policies and procedures of the plan? First of all, on an ongoing basis, we provide technical assistance. I often work with Kent or Mirella or even Kimberly through our EPAC committee and WPS committee. So if there's any questions about whether a permit needs to be reviewed, we're always available. Then, if a review is necessary, we look at these long-term planning projections to see if any changes in capacity are already anticipated. And then it eliminates the need for any amendments to the plan. If it is a private facility, it has to go through a more rigorous amendment process. There are fees, and it goes up through regional council for approval if there's a permit that needs that will land with a private entity. And if it's a public facility, then it's a simpler coordination process that just goes to the Watershed Planning Subcommittee and EPAC, the Environmental Planning Advisory Committee, in a joint meeting for more efficiency. And then that results in a permit. The next steps on the next slide, we are at the 5-year mark since we last updated our plan. So next year will be that 5-year mark, and we will compile all the annual updates that we create to all the technical appendices, and we're required to submit them at that point to ADQ and EPA. Whereas we usually keep them live for local use annually. And then we utilize the EPAC top issues list to keep up to date with issues and goals and accomplishments that feed into our action plan. The next opportunity to do that is a vote in December at the EPAC meeting. And for that, Alejandra is our liaison between EPAC and the RAC, so that if you ever have advice for that, you can either reach out to us directly or she can help be a resource as well for that issue list as well as EPAC in general. And then we do our annual review of any anticipated changes to facilities, so that's what we reach out for. We have some new tools where instead of brochures, we've created some interactive story maps and tools online so people can understand our process better. And that is almost complete, so you'll see those next up. And finally, diving into that comprehensive update. So next slide digs into that just a bit more. This 5-year mark is where we have the opportunity to review policies, because this is when we look at that first chapter that has to be adopted by regional council. All the other appendices can be updated administratively because they're more technical. So this policy chapter and procedures section will get reviewed. We haven't heard a lot of comments so far about what they would like, anyone would like changed. But this is the opportunity. So we'll have some meetings about that. And it'll go through a public process with public notice and hearings. Some of the things I have heard are things like, although we have been good at encouraging regional connections, we might want to modify that policy to also encourage recharge where it's needed so that we have more recharge upstream. So some sub-basin sort of perspective while still encouraging public facilities. Okay, and then we update those flow projections that I showed you in about 2 slides back. Those land use projections were adopted by PAG just this year, and we'll work in consultation with the DMAs to make sure that the projections look logical to you. And for that process, we'll be reaching out to make sure we have updated service area boundaries, and septic geographies might be another accomplishment we can achieve. So that's it for my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I have a question. Can you tell us a little bit about how Pima County Wastewater interfaces with your plan? When did they have an opportunity to provide input on new private plans that are proposed? How does that work? Is there a different relationship for Pima County Wastewater than the general public, in other words, because we're the major provider?
Yeah, that is the first, I would say that's the first step. So if a private entity says we'd like to, or like a developer says we would like to treat our own wastewater, we try to make sure everyone knows about our plan, so they reach out to us first. The state knows to refer those permit applications to us if it does reach application phase. And then we right away reach out to the designated management agency for that area. And sometimes the developer knows to reach out to the DMA themselves. But we work with them to do everything possible to analyze whether it could be connected to a public treatment system instead, and require an economic analysis to make sure that just to prove the case of whether the public would benefit better from it being connected to a regional public facility. So it's done at the front end, and then if it did reach a phase where it needed to go through a coordination process or an amendment, then the county is on our wastewater task force for early discussions and on the WPS and EPAC committees. And then it has to go through a management committee and regional council if it is a private one. So the county has positions on those 2 committees as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I know you knew some of that, Claire, but
it was useful for this group to hear that.
Yeah.
Plus, I haven't done that speech in a while. Good to hear it all.
For those I don't know, Claire taught me most of this.
Not really, you passed me on. Anyway, it's great. Thank you. That's what I wanted people to hear about. Anything else? Any other questions for me? Well, it's great to see you and thank you very much for coming and presenting to us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mead.
All right, we'll move on to Pima Prospers. And we have Carla Blackwell here, the Director of Development Services, and Mark Holden, Planner 3, Development Services.
I think Mark is going to be giving the presentation today. Mark?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Good morning. I had a little problem getting the meeting invite. My name is Mark Holden. I'm a Planner 3 with Pima County Development Services, the Planning Division. Speaking of longevity, I've been here with Development Services for about 10 years now. This is my second go around. I was actually involved in sort of wrapping up the last 10-year comprehensive plan in 2015, which is called Pima Prospers. And I've been sort of at the head of the effort of drafting the next 10-year update for Pima Prospers for 2025. I'm going to try to share my screen and do a PowerPoint. Of course not. Yeah, no.
Please take your time.
Pardon?
Please go ahead and take your time. I had difficulties myself.
Okay. Oh, come on. You know what? I'm just going to talk because I can't get to it. So Pima Prospers is, it's a required 10-year comprehensive plan, mainly for land use for counties. The equivalent would be a general plan for the jurisdictions. So at this point, City of Tucson is working on their 10-year general plan. I believe Oro Valley might be as well, and Marana. So we're required by the state to do a 10-year comprehensive plan. The plan is mainly supposed to look at land use, but what goes into land use is a lot of other elements, which include things like the utilities. So there's wastewater, water resources. We look at things like open space, environmental planning, economic development. Of course, we're going to look at land use. Housing is going to be a big effort in Pima Prospers 2025, as well as neighborhoods and communities. So the plan is going to be structured into four main sections. There'll be a section on the built environment, which will include housing, land use. There will also be sections that a lot of the other departments have put together information for us for wastewater management. Marilla and Kimberly put a section together on wastewater. Transportation will be there. Under the chapter for natural, physical, and cultural resources, that'll cover environmental planning, which includes the conservation land system as well as open space. Our conservation lands and resources department put that section together. Water resources has been dealt with by flood control, as has a flood control section. Economic development will mostly mirror what's in the recently approved economic strategy plan that the economic development department put together. Those three sections with an introduction have just been, a draft has been completed this week and has been sent to the web team. We're going to try to put it on an online site where people can review it and provide us comments. The last chapter is going to deal with sort of growth elements that sort of looks at all those different elements and environments and brings them all together into a growth element that will also include climate growth, costs of development. So that chapter will sort of be informed by any comments we get back on the other four chapters. We got information. We actually contracted with the Drachman Institute at the University of Arizona on a number of important areas: housing, climate change, energy, transportation, and there was one other one which I forget. So we've actually had some policy information from researchers at Rockman who have informed what goes into the plan. So again, we're probably looking at having a draft up hopefully by the end of the month. The plan needs to go to the County Board of Supervisors by next summer, like August of 2025. So the plan is moving along. It should be, hopefully we'll have, again, that review page up so people will have something to review. But yeah, I don't know why I can't share, and so it goes. Any questions?
Any questions for Mark?
I did share the link with everybody when I sent out the meeting materials. So you should be able to access the Pima Prospers page on the internet and get a look at what's there.
It's an old page and we're trying to get it updated. We wanted to have content to put up on the page. So again, hopefully we're going to have something up. I need to get back with the web team this week, like today or tomorrow. So I don't know if that page has the old Pima Prospers or if it's the new and updated, but we wanted to get some updated information that people can look at. So yeah, hopefully by the end of the month.
Can you remind me when the first Pima Prospers started? It's
The
been a long time.
the first real comprehensive plan was, I believe it was in 1992, and it was pretty much a general land use, long-term land use document. In 2000, you might remember Maveen Behan had a lot to do with the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan. And the most important part that came out of that was the conservation land system. So that conservation land system lives in the comprehensive plan. And anytime somebody comes in to do, to get an entitlement for a land use change, if they're in the conservation land system, they need to set aside open space mitigation. But that plan was drafted in about, I want to say 2000 or 2002. Pima Prospers was approved. So Arlen Colton was the one who drafted, did a lot of the work on Pima Prospers, which was the conservation, the next iteration of the conservation plan. That was 2015. And so now we're on to the next 10-year plan. There was a 15-year gap in there between 2000 and 2015 because of the recession. But we're on that next 10-year update, looking at a 2025 target.
That was my recollection, and I just wanted to share with the group how fortunate we are to have such a long-term comprehensive planning effort from Pima County. It is so different in other counties.
There's a lot of it. I mean, the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan in 2000, that really informed a lot of what went into that 2000 comprehensive plan. And for this draft as well, we've gotten a lot of really good input from a lot of the different departments. And I will say the comprehensive plan isn't developed in a vacuum. We are looking at a lot of the other plans that have been done in the county. We're looking at the Prosperity Initiative that was approved by the board. Again, we're looking at the economic development strategy, infrastructure plans, the conservation plan, of course, the natural hazard mitigation plan. So there's a whole lot that's being researched and put into the comprehensive plan. So again, there's a lot of really good input that's going into it, and there will probably be a lot more once we start getting more comments from other departments in the public and stakeholders.
Yeah, it's really great. I saw Asia's hand go up and then it went down. Asia, did you have a comment or a question?
Oh, hi, this is Asia. Yes, thanks, Claire. I put my hand down because I think Mark was kind of addressing what my question was about the stakeholder input and kind of how that happens. And I know you mentioned also like the Drockman Institute and different expertise that you're pulling into the plan. And is that, you also spoke about having the website updated. Is all of that information then that would be there, kind of what the processes are and who's involved?
Yes, there's some of the, we've actually started sending some of those Drockman Institute reports over to the Board of Supervisors. What else? I really want to get a draft of the plan up online so that people can start looking at it like ASAP. So, and then there's a lot of links in the draft plan that go back to a lot of these other plans where we've gotten information to inform the comprehensive plan.
I have
Okay, thank
one-
you. That answers.
Asia, I have one more question. So the Regional Transportation Authority plan is coming up. Can you talk about your interface with that process?
We have for transportation and circulation, it's actually a separate that's an element that's required to be included in the comprehensive plan. We did have the Drockman Institute. Actually, it was Drockman. It was a different research center out of U of A that put together a report for us on demand, like traffic demand management. Our Department of Transportation has been working on the transportation master plan that was supposed to have interfaced with the comprehensive plan. It sounds like they've had some problems getting that underway. So a lot of the transportation stuff, I think, is going to have to be filled in as we go along. So we haven't, so that, yeah, with the exception of some of the input that we got from the University of Arizona, that the transportation part's a little bit light. So we do need to go back and look at, and this will probably actually better fit into the growth area element that's going to look at, and especially with wastewater, the RTA plan will probably be will inform what goes on in the growth area element. One of the things we're looking at with growth is going to be, where we're going to get our water from. That was the other report that Drockman Institute did. But one of the things we want to try to do is get more people onto renewable water sources and onto the wastewater system, because then that water comes in, it's reclaimed, and then it's put back into the system, either recharged into the aquifer or used as irrigation. So, wastewater reclamation is going to be a big part of the growth element, and trying to get more people onto the wastewater system.
Thank you. Very helpful. Any other questions? Any other thoughts from the committee? Well, we really appreciate you coming today and presenting to us. It's very useful. Thank you. We'll move on to item C, which is Pima County Integrated Infrastructure Plan. We have Doug Mozek, who's not sure how to pronounce your name. Deputy Director of Project Design and Construction for FRMG, and Sarah Davis, Senior Advisor to the County Administrator. No. Oh, wrong one. I read it wrong. Just Doug.
Yes, good morning. Just a quick mic check. Am I good this morning?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Good morning, I'm Doug Mozeki, Deputy Director with Project Design and Construction. I appreciate the opportunity to come this morning and talk with the Regional Wastewater Advisory Committee on the Integrated Infrastructure Plan. Let me hopefully share the correct screen to be able to give you a quick presentation. Basically, the Integrated Infrastructure Plan, or the IIP, we just heard regarding Pima Prospers. This is really it's the next step in realizing the outcome envisioned by Pima County's comprehensive plan. These are a couple of bullets pulled right from the plan itself, and it's basically a 10-year project list that's continually being reviewed and updated as the environment changes. You know, a lot of people hear IIP, maybe think CIP. We have the capital improvement plan, which is the 5-year plan that's presented to the Board of Supervisors for annual adoption. It's a fiscally, pardon me, constrained plan. The IIP really contains an inventory of the county's assets. It's a 10-year projection of the needs by department. Some folks have referred to it as a wish list, but it's really the goal is for it to be a list of needs as our infrastructure ages, as new developments occur. So this is actually, it's not constrained. It's based on the needs of the different departments. And then the goal is that the projects that are on the 10-year IIP are used to then populate and update the CIP. It is a public document, so I wanted to take just a real quick minute to show everyone where they could locate it. If you have a desire to read the current IIP, if you just go to Pima's website, pima.gov, you can see on the right the departments and offices tab. If you select the departments and offices and locate project design and construction, if you open on project design and construction, you'll open up the PDC page, have a little bit of information about PDC itself, but then it also shows on the left side the integrated infrastructure plan. And so if you select that link, you end up on our page, which contains links to the IIP itself. The two circled in red are links to the actual IIP, and what's circled in green below is the link to the 5-year CIP. So that's all available and is updated on an annual basis. Once you're in the IIP, you'll see this is currently the active IIP from 2026 to 2035. Got a nice table of contents explaining some of the information related to the IIP, and then breakdowns by department. So when we talk about the needs, there are 6 criteria that are identified in the IIP, and within that document, there's a much more detailed explanation of the 6 criteria: safety, life cycle, return on investment, environmental, economic development, and capacity. If we take a look then at some of the IIP information, this is transportation example where it identifies what their current infrastructure is, the top 10 projects that they have identified, list of priority projects themselves. You end up out then into the forecast different projects, but I know I'm talking to the Regional Wastewater Advisory Committee, so I thought I'd better jump to wastewater instead and take a look at some of the current infrastructure identified by Regional Wastewater. These were the top 10 projects that were identified in the previous IIP with a write-up on those priority projects. And then again, you move into the 10-year projection. This one looks a little bit different because you can see in gray that first few years there's nothing identified, and that's because these are already identified in the 5-year CIP. So it's a projection of work then beyond what's in the current CIP. And so this is how it looks today. Moving forward, we're actively updating the IIP. And right now, this is the appearance of the summary of projects within the IIP. The gray area again is identified in the CIP itself. Then you can see on the right side, we've added project description, priorities, low, medium, high, supervisor district, and then those 6 needs. And we've actually added there's a 7th need that's identified here, which is community. And so basically, PDC currently assembles the IIP, but we work with all the departments. They each have a tab, you know, they're the experts on what they're operating and maintaining and their needs are. So we work with them to be able to contribute and provide their recommendations. And we are also working with the county administration on our format and schedule moving forward. Right now, we're looking at trying to adjust the IIP schedule to receive updates prior to the budgeting cycle rather than at the conclusion of the budgeting cycle. So we're looking at moving that all forward. You know, it is a living document that is basically a snapshot in time. And we are going through an iterative process as we look at what the needs are of the county. You know, it's constantly being updated and revised. But the goal is that ideally the 10-year IIP will be created. That then will feed into 5-year CIP, which then helps feed into the annual budget. We're also bringing this into our new management software. We've just rolled out the Masterwork software. So rather than assembling everything in Excel documents and Word documents, we're looking at adding all of these proposed projects into Masterworks with the IIP codes so that projects can easily be added and updated throughout the years by each different department. And the IIP report could then be generated at any point in time to provide that snapshot in time to be able to look at where we are in our plan and where we're going. And I appreciate the opportunity to provide a very brief update, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Doug? No? Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Been a great planning day, hasn't it? Yeah. My happy place. Okay, so we'll move on to item 2. Thank you, everybody, for coming and talking with us today. I'm sorry, item 3. From item 2 to item 3, vacant positions. And we have Ellen Moulton and also perhaps Sarah Davis, Senior Advisor to the County Administrator.
So,
Ellen,
go ahead.
I was just, Sarah sent a message in the chat that Ellen will be taking it away.
Yeah. So, let's see if I can use my, oh, Lord love us. PowerPoint is not our friend today. Let's just say that out loud. So let me see if I can share my screen and get it in presentation mode. Slideshow. Except it's not on the right page. So, give me 1 more minute and we're going to Well, we're just going to use it this way. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. So you had asked to talk about vacant positions and the new policies and procedures that are in place. So in the Board of Supervisors has been discussing vacant positions and the impact they have on the budget for the last couple of years. In April, the board adopted a new board policy, D 22.16, on vacant positions. Jeanette had included both the policy and the administrative procedure in your packet. So this is just a summary of that. So within the vacant position policy, Finance and Risk Management, in coordination with Human Resources, is responsible for the management of vacant positions and the associated budget authority. And then the county administrator shall establish procedures to eliminate positions with exceptions that have been vacant for more than 240 days. While this policy was adopted in April 16th of 2024, it was implemented July 1st, 2024. The procedure states that on the first day of each quarter, so October 1st, January 1st, April, and then July, all positions that have remained vacant for more than 240 days will be eliminated. That's the procedure. There are slightly different rules related to grant-funded positions. And the way that this works is finance runs a report to identify any position that will be vacant for 240 days or greater 30 days before the start of the quarter. So the quarter is January 1st. Earlier this week, we ran the report to identify what positions would meet that threshold so that we could inform departments and give them the list of the positions that are currently vacant and expected to be at that 240-day threshold effective January 1st. The policy and the procedures say that if the positions are not filled or are not in the interview stage, they will be eliminated at the start of the quarter. Now, of course, with any policy or procedure, there are always exceptions. So the reason that I ran the report this week was we will be giving that to the directors probably the week of Thanksgiving to let them know these are the positions that are in jeopardy, that are targeted for elimination. And there are two processes basically that are available to the departments. One, they can fill those positions, in which case they remain fully funded and in their departments. Or two, they can appeal to the county administrator for dispensation to say why those positions should not be eliminated. If the position is eliminated, the budget is also eliminated from the current year for that department and in all future years. So this is being used as a budget reduction tool. For grant-funded positions, it's a slightly different process. The analysis focuses around the grant program itself. Are the positions needed to fulfill that grant programming that we've contracted to do? If the position is to be eliminated, those vacancy savings have to be used within that grant program because that's where we got the money to do that. And any position associated with an expiring grant are automatically eliminated. So I thought I would let you know where we stand with the wastewater vacant positions. As of yesterday, wastewater has 35 vacant positions, and they are ranging from vacant for 3 days up to 199 days vacant. 22 of those 35 positions are currently under active recruitment. And the budget associated with those 35 positions is almost $3 million. This is one of the reasons the Board of Supervisors has targeted in on vacant positions. There is a significant amount of budget authority tied up in these vacant positions. From the wastewater perspective, there is only one position that is eligible for elimination. This is the position that has been vacant for 199 days. If it remains vacant until January 1st, it would be one of those two positions that had reached that 244-day threshold and would be targeted for elimination. This position is currently under recruitment, and if it's filled, then finance takes no further action. If Jackson believes that this is a critical position, he will need to appeal to the county administration to get this position held in abeyance from the application of the board policy and the admin procedure. If the county administration chose not to approve his appeal, then what would happen with this position is the position would be eliminated, Jackson's budget would be reduced, but the money that was associated with this position would remain within his fund because he is an enterprise fund, and that those dollars are segregated. So that gives you a little bit of background on where the vacant position policies came from and how we're trying to implement them. Over the last several years, the county has gone through several iterations of a hit and miss variety. You know, a couple of years ago, anything that was more than 365 days just got wholesale eliminated. We went through any number of processes before the board decided that a formal board policy and administrative procedure were required. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions on this item? Thank you very much. That was useful. Are there any questions or discussion anybody has on this? Comments? Oh, Anne Marie. Oh, Anne Marie, yes.
Thank you, Ellen, for that presentation. I appreciate it. Because this is something that has concerned me, as was noted earlier, I have a long history on this committee, and I've seen the department's personnel get reduced, and I'm of the opinion now that it's to the point where it really can't have any more reductions. And as someone who also has a very small but technical company, I know the problems with recruitment right now are really hard. So my question, maybe it's to Jackson or to you, is how many of these appeals to the county manager have actually been successful? I mean, if that position isn't filled, is there truly a possibility of having it appealed and being held?
Absolutely. This is we have done this once. So let's be clear. We've gone through this cycle one time. And if you give me a minute, I will find what was appealed the last time, and because I had to write a memo on it. So if you can just give me a second, I can tell you exactly how many positions were appealed out of how many. So when we did this for the first quarter, that started October the 1st, we had identified 156 positions that were eligible for elimination. Of those, 39 positions were filled between the end of August and October 1st. No, I take that back. 46 were filled between the end of August and October 1st. 71 appeals were granted and 39 positions were eliminated. So quite a few positions, more than almost double what was eliminated, was appealed. And those appeals were available for this next quarter. The appeals are only good for 1 quarter, and you have to reappeal if you still have vacant positions. So we started with 156. Right now, and I apologize because I thought I still had this up, but give me a second. And I can tell you how many positions are eligible, if you will, for elimination. There are currently 115 positions that will make the list for communications to the department. So we're seeing a significant, in my mind, a significant decrease. We went from 156, we are now down to 115. A number of those that were appealed the last time are still vacant. Finance has had, I think, 5 positions that were eligible for elimination. I appealed for all 5 of them. My appeals were granted. I still have 3 that are unfilled. I am in the process of trying to get those positions designated as hard to fill. If a position is designated as hard to fill, they are not included in the overall eligibility for elimination. So we have a number of processes going on. Currently, most of the positions that are in the hard to fill category are related to facilities management. Some of the technical trades are the ones that the county has already deemed as hard to fill. The 3 positions that I'm going to have to appeal again are all in internal audit, and quite frankly have all been vacant for more than a year and a half. No matter what I do, I cannot seem to find qualified internal auditors. So that's why I am moving forward, working with HR to try to get those as designated as hard to fill, so that they are not subject to this quarterly appeal review process. But those are the options that are available to departments. Either get your position qualified as hard to fill, or simply ask the county administration for dispensation for this quarter.
Thank you for that information. I appreciate that. I'm hoping that maybe we can just keep it on the agenda, maybe quarterly, about how positions filled and which ones are possibly up for elimination and how the appeal process is going. Just yeah.
You can see, I ran those reports while we were talking. It's very easy to find, so there should be no problem with communicating that to you. It would be probably this, the 1 month out from the beginning of the quarter, so the end of February will be when the next data will be available.
Okay.
Or that we should look at, I should say.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Ellen. That's great. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to the RAC work plan draft reviewed. Everybody saw that in their packet. And given today's discussions, there might be a few other items to go on there, including this one, but also if we are moving toward a rate increase. I don't see that on every month, but we probably will need to have some sort of discussion. Other than that, I know last year we went through this and sort of rearranged things and I believe last year what we did is we took some non-finance things out this spring, since that's so finance oriented, and we put them here, which is why we have the Living River report and also the plan this part of the year.
And there were a couple of topics you guys wanted to have more information on that we added in. That this year we think, for example, the PFAS, you wanted a PFAS presentation this year. Well, we think that could be more incorporated into the CREO update that Max does. Things like that, we can just streamline it a little bit more. I did move the diversity, equity, and inclusion presentation for February. That was supposed to be I want to say October meeting. And due to their own, shorthandedness and they just didn't have the personnel available to us. I tentatively put that in for February, but again, that's subject to their availability. I did also make, move the, so we have timing for January, doing the TSNE update, and I have conveyance down in September, so those two are flipped. Since, and conveyance, since that we're still, the position for deputy director is still open, that's just TBD.
Yeah, okay.
But if there are additional, topics or, that you want to include, for example, this year we did all this long range plan on this meeting, that was a new thing. So things like
That was great. Any other, any comments on this work plan? I know we'll see it again and again. We can always make comments, but, overall, it looks really good to me.
I think of this more as just our backbone, and as things evolve over the years, we can try to squeeze in
Other things. Anything else? I know we often say we would like a short meeting, but I think it's also important if we're gonna spend the time to get together and to think about these things, we have robust meetings, so it's worth everybody's effort, so.
Well, is this work plan acceptable to the committee?
Do we need to
Where it
vote on that?
stands?
No, I don't think we. Motion. Do we need a motion? Oh, okay, all right. So we do need a motion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would anybody like to, motion approval of this draft work plan for 2025? So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any other further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Great. Any opposed? Okay, motion approved. We will move forward with this unless there are changes in the future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna move for the period 4 to item 5, which is period 4 expense and revenue summary. I think you say, Centeno is here.
Yes,
You
hi,
say-
good morning. Let me share my screen as well, and we'll take a look at the data. Excellent. How we're watching my screen. So for period 4 ending October 31st, this is the data we have. Our total O&M expenses, adopted budget is 104.8 million. So far as 31.9 million has of actuals. We are projecting to have 104.3 million, giving us a positive of 518 variance. And we're still expecting several expenses coming in for supply and services. So we know this is going to change, and we can see the variance in the personnel that Jackson was mentioned earlier, the vacancy, so we can see that reflected there as well. We jump down to total O&M expenses, including the contra, the depreciation, debt services. It gives an adopted budget of 183.4. Actual so far, 37.4 million. And the projection is 181.7, giving us a positive variance of 100.6 million so far as a period 4. Scrolling down to our total revenue, adopted budget, slightly under $200 million. Actual so far, 60.7 million. And we're projected to have a $202.4 million, giving us a over budget, more revenue of $3.4 million so far. And the rating ratio, the budget amount was 1.32, and we're projected to be at 1.38. So This is the data for as of period 4, October 31st. Any
Okay.
questions?
Any questions from anybody on the group? From committee?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Moving down the list here, we'll go to the financial subcommittee report. Matt Mathewson, the chair. Well,
Yes, good morning. The subcommittee met on November 5th. We further discussed and analyzed the 4 financial planning pillars presented by the finance department, with a focus primarily on the recommended metric for the wastewater department's debt coverage ratio, or rating agency ratio, as we just heard, which had been set by this committee at 1.2 as a minimum and had 1.3 as a goal. Based on our discussion, the subcommittee passed a motion to recommend raising the minimum debt service coverage or rating agency ratio to 1.3. We will have another meeting on December 18th at 1 o'clock to focus primarily on the wastewater department's cash reserve pillar requirements. So more to follow on that. And again, our goal is to mature these discussions and analyses to a point where come January and February, when we're looking at the new financial plan and rate workbook, that there are fewer issues and more clarity to facilitate review and approval of recommended financial plan for the new year.
Thank
And
you,
that's my
Matt.
report. Yep.
I just want to mention that we've just had really great support from Pima County wastewater staff and Ellen, and it's just been very helpful for the discussions. And Ellen, we particularly appreciate your efforts to work with the group. Moving on to. You're welcome.
I can just say that it is my staff that is doing all the hard work, so I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's really great. Matt, you're doing such a good job running through that. So we'll move on to item 7, which is the CIP subcommittee. Asia, do you have a report for us? Asia Holden?
Yes, thank you, Claire. The CIP subcommittee meeting is scheduled for December 10th. We'll be meeting at 9 a.m. It's a teens meeting. So looking forward to getting those updates on CIP. Yeah, I think that's, I just wanted to let everybody know that's when the meeting is happening. If there are any questions, happy to take those.
Any questions or comments from the group? Thank you, Asia. Moving on.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Citizen Water Advisory Committee, meeting report and 2 similar activities, and that's you, Alan.
Yeah, CWAC last met on November 6th, and the main topic of discussion was Tucson Water's capital improvement program. Very similar to what the IIP, they basically do a 10-year CIP, but they only program in 5 years at a time, but they kind of have that same forward looking. And so kind of the numbers there are, I think their current CIP budget is $96 million. Most of their projects are, a lot of them are rehab, like the reservoirs and pump stations, those kind of things. So aging infrastructure related. But they do have some new facilities going in. particularly in the growth areas, southeast, just to keep up with the demand, storage, booster stations, that kind of thing. And one thing that really struck me as significant was that, I may not remember the number exactly, but so they programmed 96 million. They're projecting that this fiscal, they'll spend over 90% of that. They'll get it out the door. That's something we always struggled with when I was there. I mean, we were probably more in the 60% range. A lot of it had to do with, you program utility relocations for roadway work, and that work could get pushed out. So that money would have to get pushed out. But I think what Tucson Water's doing, and I think Pima County probably, wastewater does this as well, is they go ahead and do the design on future projects, knowing that they may not get to construction for a year or so. But if money becomes available, they have those on the shelf. They can just move them up into the current year and spend the money that they projected they were going to spend, which is really improves efficiency in your capital program. So I was real pleased to see that. And over 10 years, they're projecting about $500 million in capital improvements. That was really the gist of the meeting.
Hey, Alan, did they have in the last go around or recent times any presentations or discussions on the differential water rates in the CWEC?
They did maybe a couple months ago, and basically what they shared with CWAC was that they are reevaluating the calculations, because it seemed like, and I'm not trying to, be a lawyer here or whatever, but just what kind of came across was that they felt that, they still had the right to do that. They just maybe didn't justify it in the correct way for the courts. And so they're looking at going back and reevaluating to fit, those requirements. So that's in process.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. All right, and we're moving on to future agenda items. We did have a couple of things come up. One was to put this, the staff position elimination thing on a quarterly basis. So maybe plug it in. And I don't know.
Rate increases, I guess it's.
The rate
planned,
increases
but-
on December. And then probably all the following months.
All the way through June, probably, till the break in July.
Permanently there. Yeah, it's gonna be a lift, it's almost a pretty big lift. And then we will be talking about those public hearings and everything, so we will need people to respond to the doodle polls and so forth to make sure that we can have a good bunch of us at those meetings. Yeah. Any future agenda items that we haven't discussed so far? No? Okay. Call to the audience, final call to the audience. Do we have any audience that would like to speak up? Hearing none, we'll move on to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes, say aye.
Yes. Hi.
Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah.
That was the most excitement out of this group.
Any opposed? All right, we will adjourn. Thanks, everybody. It was a really great meeting. Thank you.